What's going on, Bills Mafia? Welcome to Buffalo Late Night. I am your host, Thomas DeLoss, and happy Victory Monday. Unbelievable. We're back here again. We're back in the win column. This is a great day. We're a great start to this week. Thank you for tuning in this evening. Obviously, if you are here for the first time, welcome to Buffalo Late Night on Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network. We are extremely excited and proud that we are now part of the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network. If you are listening on Spotify, happy Tuesday. It's supposed to be, I guess, 45. We'll see. Who knows? You can find our show on all free social media and streaming platforms, including Spotify and YouTube. And if you are right now watching on Twitter, hop on over to YouTube. Join the conversation. We'd love to have you. Tonight, joining us, we have two very special guys. One of them a returning guy, another guy for the very first time. First, the co-host of the Cover One Buffalo podcast and the co-originator of Cover One, Mr. Greg Tompsett, as well as, for the first time tonight, we have the host of the Bruce Exclusive, the co-host of the Food for Thought podcast, alongside Mr. Nate Geary, the international man of mystery and everybody's favorite funny guy, Mr. Bruce Nolan. What's going on, guys?
Gentlemen.
It's a party.
Bruce?
It's a party all the time. I mean,
That's right.
I feel like I have a lot to live up to now because I was just introduced as everyone's favorite funny guy. And I'm like, is that the role I'm playing? Am I the funny guy? I thought Greg was the funny guy. I'm the straight man, right? I'm the boring guy. I'm the grumpy, cantankerous, get off my lawn guy. Do I have to be the funny guy? Greg, did you get the notes ahead of time? Am I the funny guy or are you the funny guy?
You're a man of many hats. I think it's
that was like a little run from Bruce Almighty, everybody's favorite funny guy. It was a line from the movie.
I know.
That's okay.
I was just kind of playing into it, though.
Oh, okay. You were leaning hard into it.
It's
My apologies.
Sweeps week. I was going to knock the sandwich out of your hand.
God damn it! I missed my opportunity. That being said, guys, how are we doing? Happy Monday. How's your day?
Thank God it is Victory Monday. It was getting a little difficult. Bruce wasn't the only cantankerous person in Bills Mafia. We treated the Packers win like a loss, and then we suffered back-to-back losses. So it felt like 3 in a row. And being in that spot and being able to finally kind of get the ship righted, and especially after, if you go back to my mentions at the end of the first quarter, it was really ugly. You were talking like 11 straight ugly quarters. So then to rattle off 7 straight scoring drives, really good defense until some garbage time. I think it was a much needed, just healthy exhale, sigh of relief for Bills Mafia. And today was a much needed Victory Monday and a nice one because we come right back to it quick. So I think there's a chance if we can take care of business on Thursday, we can really get back into the right frame of mind.
Yeah, one of the joys about having 2 games this close together is that if you win both of them, all of a sudden you feel a lot different about your team. And you get that mini bye coming off Thursday. If you win back-to-back games Sunday and Thursday, and then you get a mini bye, you think to yourself, okay, we're back on track now. And vice versa. Obviously, if you lose that game and then you come back and you lose on Thursday, it feels really bad. And you don't have a very significant opportunity to wash that taste out of your mouth for a long time. So I'm glad it's Victory Monday. like Greg said, I think the Bills fans were getting a little bit restless. I actually did, in fact, see someone who said we should bench Josh Allen and play Case Keenum. Like that was the thing that happened. So in case you're wondering how Bills Mafia was doing during that time, I did see that. So I'm just glad that I don't have to see that for at least a little bit.
Yep. Definitely don't disagree in that sentiment. I know for myself, the first, 5-6 weeks of the show, everything was wonderful. And a lot of victory Mondays. It was very nice. And ironically enough, the only one I didn't was the Miami game, and I just couldn't do a show anyway. So I was on a fantastic streak. So getting back to this is significantly more advantageous to my well-being and my health. And it makes actually coming up with topics of conversation a little bit more fun, a little bit more lively, and a little bit more jovial. That being said, we're gonna wait. We're waiting on Mr. Banged Up Bills, Kyle Trimble. He's having a little computer technical issue. So what we're gonna jump right into our first topic tonight. The Bills this week, they've proven they do in fact have a running game, ladies and gentlemen. Crazy, I know. And in fact, not only do they have a running game, effectively they have a really good running game, running at 5.6 yards a clip. Why do you think it has taken the Bills so long to either admit the necessity of a balanced attack as something worthwhile, or is it the utilization based on a failing, couple weeks of their passing attack?
I think there's a healthy mix of both. It's the saying is there for a reason that inventions the mother necessity. It's that I think I just flipped the saying around. Necessities the mother of invention. The reason that you have to lean into that and be able to be capable, sometimes it's because, hey, Ken, sticking to 11 personnel and 4 wide all the time is great when things are clicking, but it's not always going to be able to be there. Just because it's still our bread and butter and a go-to doesn't mean it's the only pitch you can throw here. So, leaning in, I really liked how much we saw, extra linemen, extra tight ends, Reggie Gilliam, extra 2 running backs on the field. And I don't think it's an accident that we saw some good run results. I'm still, maintaining a bit of wait and see, because we should have run well. Like we were supposed to run well. The Browns were a bad run defense, and we ran well against a bad run defense, and that's fine. It's better than not doing it. It's better than struggling against a bad run defense. I also don't know that we're going to see that answer against Detroit, because I don't think they're very good against that either. But doing it well, even when you're supposed to, even when you kind of had your hand forced because of your quarterback's elbow, because of the 10 straight quarters of struggling play, doesn't mean it's not encouraging when it happened. So I think it's okay to acknowledge those qualifiers. I think it's okay to be aware that one, they probably needed to, and 2, they were supposed to look good, but they did. And that still should be acknowledged, that they look good, and they look good without needing Josh Allen to be, not only to be a big part of it, but not a part of it at all. And that it was purely the running backs that carried the day. So I think it's okay, even with those qualifiers, to say, hey, they did a nice job, and that's good.
Yeah, I think that the big qualifier, obviously, that Greg mentioned was it's the Browns, right? The Browns run defense has been pretty bad this year. And, one of the reasons why, if you spend any time in the fantasy football community, they were, all the way on Ramondre Stevenson against the Browns defense when he played them. And sure enough, that's what happened. And the thing that's going to be interesting for me is coming up against the Lions, because the Lions have been a bad rush defense so far this year until they've played Saquon Barkley, which was very strange. Like out of nowhere, the Lions fired their defensive backs coach, which should have absolutely no correlation, right, to the run defense. And now all of a sudden they played really, really well and stacked up really well against Saquon Barkley in an offense that has been primarily Barkley focused. People talk about Brian Daboll in his time with Buffalo, and they think that you're just going to see a copy and paste of that moving over to the Giants, completely forgetting that Brian Daboll ran running back centric offenses for a large portion of his career up until getting to the Buffalo Bills. One of the questions coming in for Brian Daboll was, well, yeah, he's handled and he's been at the helm of really good run offenses at some point in his career, but he's never been at the helm of really good pass offenses. And people who were defending him were always like, well, look at the quarterbacks. I mean, the best quarterback he's ever had was Matt Castle. So how do you feel about that? And so I don't really know how to feel about the Bills' run game, because on one hand, I think to myself, okay, if they do well against the Lions, then that means something because the Lions just did well against Barkley. But on the other hand, I think, well, the Lions haven't done well against basically anybody else. So I don't think the Lions are the Browns in the sense that we should expect that same level, but I don't think they're not either. I'm going to walk away from the Buffalo Bills run game after Thanksgiving not knowing what I'm talking about. That's just going to happen. It's going, because I will have seen 2 games in 4 days, and regardless of the outcome, I will still not feel comfortable saying, yes, you know what? Bill's got this run game figured out. And I still won't feel comfortable saying, you know what? They have no idea what they're talking. Just it's completely, it was a ruse, what you saw against the Browns. There is not going to be a definitive answer for me on whether or not the Buffalo Bills have figured out the run game, regardless of the outcome on Thursday night.
Yeah, that's the thing, especially right now. And I think the fact that Josh's arm is potentially just not 100%, it's hard to truly get a gauge on what's going on with the Bills. I mean, because obviously we're never going to know. None of us work for the Bills. At least we don't know if Bruce does. That we don't know what Bruce is. In fact, Bruce could be an algorithm for all we know. That being said, I think it's tough to truly get a pinpoint on the Bills offense right now, because we don't know if they're hiding what's going on with Josh's arm. There was a couple times that Josh did some serious pump fakes in the game yesterday, and any other time Josh would have unleashed that, just Snapdragon, and he doesn't, and he drops it down. So, I mean, you kind of have to think, is that an effort to protect his arm? Is he doesn't have the strength? Are they leaning on the run game? I like what Ralph Wilson Sr., welcome from the dead, that they may have been preparing for a snow game too. Entirely possible. There's so many variables with only one.
Prepare is a very kind word. I think they had one walkthrough. I don't know that they actually practiced.
They talked about a snow game.
Correct. They talked about some ideas of things they could do. They actually didn't practice anything.
Yeah, I think it was like a beep beep beep. Oh,
yeah.
Josh, it's gonna snow. Okay, good. I think that's all we got right there. That being said, we're going to quickly jump over to our injury specialist here at Buffalo Late Night on the Buffalo Rumblings Network. That is our guy, Banged Up Bills, Dr. Kyle Trimble. Hi, what's going on, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. Good to see you, Greg. Good to hear you, Bruce, and good to see you, Tom.
Absolutely. So, Kyle, obviously coming off a tumultuous week where things went sideways, a lot of illness, 1 day of practice, things were kind of just weird. And then again, having a short week coming up, going into Detroit. How is the injury front looking for the Bills going into Thanksgiving?
It's starting to look a little bit better. The injury report is definitely long, like it has been all season, but there are a few injuries of note coming out of the game. We're going to just go right down the list here, or at least in terms of the importance there. So Mitch Morse, he suffered a right ankle injury very, very early on in the game. I believe it was the second offensive snap of the game. And what happened was he was stepping back, trying to maintain his block, and bodies kind of came crashing in behind him, knocked his feet out from underneath him. And when he tried landing on his right leg, his ankle turned inward, and he's able to regain his footing, but he definitely tweaked it, was kind of limping around briefly. Reports were saying after that series, he went and got taped up and kept it moving around and played the rest of the game, played in all 100% of snaps. However, he was seen in a walking boot after the game. So by video, it looked like a right ankle sprain. He did not practice through the walkthrough today, which isn't a big concern. I want to see what he does on Tuesday. He's a guy that's not going to miss games unless he has to, but he'd be a big loss if they can't go for some reason on Thursday. But it's too soon to tell whether he's going to play or not based on how severe the ankle injury is. It didn't look that bad, especially if you go through it, but that's one of the big ones. And then the other one was AJ Epinesa. He had a left ankle injury. The broadcast had said it. He suffered it sometime very early on in the first quarter defensive series, and I went to plays that he was on, and tackle for loss, or I believe a sack with Ed Oliver, and then another one where the play got broken up, and then the ball got down the field. He was out of the play of the camera for a little bit, and I couldn't really ever see what happened to his left ankle. Like, he was pivoting on it pretty hard, but there wasn't a mechanism where he rolled it. I didn't see where there's a high ankle sprain mechanism. He didn't get stepped on. So it was weird that he was questionable, and then he was downgraded out after the second half. I don't know what's going on with him. I will say that he did suffer a left ankle injury back in week 9 against the Jets, and he missed like one play. I don't know if they're connected right now. So we have to see what's going on with that, and if he's going to be able to play this week. They did say it's going to be a stretch for him to play, which seems like he's not going to. But now you got Greg Rousseau, who's out with his ankle sprain. AJ Epinesa. It's not looking good for the defensive linemen. They do have Mike Love to bring up. They do have options to move around and keep that depth there, but certainly
they brought back Kingsley Jonathan as well.
Thank you. I was thinking, I'm like, who did they bring back? And I could not remember the name. So you read my mind, Greg. That's perfect there. So I mean, Kingsley does have, I believe, some active playing time, so he could jump in if they need to be. I would think they'd bring Mike Love up before him, but they've done weird things before there. So those are the two big ones. We see that Kyrie Elam's practicing full, which is real good. Tremaine Edmonds is groin and heel, and looks like he's going to be a stretch too, they said. David Questenberry was the ankle is limited. He looked to sprain the ankle or do something to it on one of the last field goals, like with like 2 minutes left in the second half there. So he only played on special teams, which narrows down a lot to when it happened. Those are, like I said, the big ones. And then I was just wanting 2 other notes there. You were talking about Josh Allen before, the prior topic there. I think the Bills are hiding something with his injury. I think they've been hiding it since day one. We saw enough reports come out and say that, and that's what made me convinced on his the timeline I thought at the time. But I definitely think there's more to it, but it's definitely a calculated risk for him to play. And I think it's worked out for them. They've been able to protect him. They've been able to avoid some of the hits that will cause for the injury to that area. But he's even talked about taking some heat off his fastball, limiting some of the deep throws, and limiting his reps during the week there by not throwing. So I think they're just waiting it out and hoping that they can protect him until that elbow is right again there. But we're seeing that he wasn't looking great in that first half there until he connected with Gabe Davis. I can't believe it was either a touchdown or it was just a big play there. But like once he hit that one, boom, he was good for after that. So it's going to continue lingering for a bit longer for Allen. And then my final thought is Jordan Poyer. Huge difference with him being out there compared to Jaquan Johnson. We haven't seen D. Marlowe come back yet. But one thing I noticed, and I even messaged Eric Turner this, because I work with Cover One with the videos every week there. He only hits with his right arm. He only leads with the right shoulder. His left shoulder was taped up. He had the big brace on his left arm. He was unable to really engage with that left arm. He just wasn't able to do that. Like, he'd have to really wrap himself around a guy to get him tackled, or he'd have to lead and, finish the tackle with his left arm. But anytime he was forced to go to his left, he got beat real bad by Njoku hurtling over him. So, like, it's great that Poyer's out there having those angles and, making a difference out there, because he is a difference maker, but he's severely hampered by the elbow injury. And we're going to have probably more details after the season, what's going on with that. But I commend the guy for getting out there and playing. But it tells you something when one-armed Jordan Poyer is better than a two-armed Jaquan Johnson.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Yes.
I think the sentiment on Jaquan Johnson has been pretty widely considered as just not good, not good enough.
Special teams is just fine.
Yes, absolutely. So those are the big injuries. I was looking at the Detroit Lions stuff there too. The only big one I noted, a lot of their guys have had little things lingering over. Jeff Okudah went out with a concussion on Sunday, so that'll be a big loss for them in the secondary. I know he was coming off here, and I really haven't paid attention to how Okudah was doing, but I know he was a big draft prospect coming out of Ohio State. So to see him, likely be out for this contest is going to be only helpful for the Bills passing game.
For sure. Bruce, Greg, anything for Kyle?
When is Trey White going to play?
I don't know. I mean, we keep hearing the mental stuff. We keep hearing about the timelines. I got a dartboard I'm looking at right now, and if I open it up, I feel like if I just close my eyes and threw a dart, and if the numbers were the month, I feel like I might get more accurate with that with regards to playing that.
I have a nickel. I bet our Cover One staff chat a nickel that it's going to be the Patriots game after they get done with the weird turf in Detroit. But
I'd be okay with that at that point. But I mean, that's way later than anybody had predicted.
Yeah.
I mean,
December 1st. That's crazy.
Yeah. Like, I thought he'd come back in late September because he would get activated from PUP and then work his way back in. And then it's okay. Well, he's going to be on PUP. Then okay, let's look at Green Bay for week 8. Well, okay, maybe not. Maybe it's Minnesota in week 10. Nope. Okay, we get the slit film turf, which is really weird. It's like a mesh, like those cargo nets you climbed on as a kid. That's what it looks like when you zoom in on. I'm thinking, why let these guys play on it? But apparently it's for durability. So if that's what he tore his ACL on and there's a mental component to it, yeah, I wouldn't want to play on it either.
And I will say,
on my own field.
I think that Leslie Frazier made comments today that I think showed the first signs of actual optimism, where I think he actually emphasized that he thought it was getting really close. So
yeah,
so obviously I think there's some frustration in the fact that he hasn't played, the timeline, the guessing, everyone informed, like people like yourself that are informed on this topic, all are kind of now throwing their hands up being like, it's really kind of past any, normal milestones and how we do this. I do push back on some of the people like, oh, well, is he ever going to come back? And I mean, I think that's just normal kind of panicked fan, here we go again, syndrome kind of thought
Bills
process.
Mafia panics about things?
No, nervous
Never.
mafia isn't a thing. So I will push back there that I've seen enough clips of him moving in practice that it is certainly a matter of when, not if he comes back. And that I think when he comes back, he's going to come back with some level of moderation initially. I think some level of rotation, but that we're going to see 4+ games of him at 100% or whatever his 2022 version of 100% is before we go into the playoffs. And I think it's just a matter of, is it the Patriots game? Is it the Jets game? I think it's that window.
Yeah, I think the fact that you have Leslie Frazier saying, I think he's getting real close, combined with Sean McDermott saying, kind of pushing back on the narrative that it was a Trey thing by saying it was a team decision. You put all these things together and you go, okay, I can see it now.
Yeah.
Before, I know that when you lack data, you have a tendency to fill it because, brains hate a vacuum. It's just the way it is. And so when you don't know things, you create your own narratives to fill it, right? And the narratives that you create can be as outlandish as your panic level. And sports fans never, ever panic. So they would never fill that.
I mean, theoretically, some sports, and not Bills fans,
not us,
some
other people.
Yeah.
Way different than us, way more uglier, right? Less well-spoken than we are. I think that, with less luxurious facial hair, then I think that it is a situation where having a little of that fog of war cleared up, I think should make Bills Mafia feel a little bit better than they have been.
Yeah. Wait, did we just get a hint that Bruce might have facial hair? We might actually.
I was actually just discussing because, Kyle and Greg both have those great beards.
Sure. So. Okay. Now we're going to play Guess Who with Greg's face. And hopefully maybe that leads us to Bruce. That being said, Kyle, we appreciate you as always stopping in with us, and we will see you next Monday after another game in 4 days. So
it's crazy.
Have a great Thanksgiving, my friend.
Appreciate you, Kyle. Happy Thanksgiving, brother.
Likewise. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Good night.
Catch you later, man.
Oh, I just kicked the wrong button. Greg's back again.
Kick me out.
So obviously with Dr. Kyle Trimble, the best doctor for your kids is very, very important. And when it comes to choosing doctors, I choose the best dentist, right? You want to choose the best dentist for your kids so that your kids have the best teeth forever, because we don't want them to be missing teeth. We want them to be beautiful with great smiles, right? And part of that is making sure that you choose Dr. Zach Mills. right? AD, 4K, a dentist for kids. Dentist for Kids offers individual dental treatment for kids of all ages by providing a relaxed, fun, and encouraging environment. Dr. Zach's goal is to help your child build confidence in their smile and with their overall dental health. A Dentist for Kids is currently accepting new patients, and they participate with most major insurances. If you visit Dr. Zach, mention Buffalo Late Night for $25 off your choice of a custom whitening kit or electric toothbrush. Call today to set up an appointment with Dr. Zach and his team, 585-538-7230. If you go to bflolate-night.com, you can see his logo right there. Click on it. It'll take you right to his page. All of his information, all the backstory, everything you need to know. He is really as good as I say he is. It's not just for show. It's not just because he's a sponsor. He is truly, as my cousin, he's a fantastic dentist, truly cares. Moving on from all of that, I want to say hello to a couple people in the chat tonight. We got a couple of the regulars, Brian Bowers, JR. We got Richard Rush. Ralph Wilson Sr. is in the chat. It's fantastic. Surprising. Daniel Finn and Dave King. Gentlemen, glad to have you.
Good evening, guys.
Moving on, we do have a weekly segment here at Buffalo Late Night, and that is our damn segment. Ian, go ahead and kick that baby off.
Damn!
Tonight's Damn Award recipient is the Minnesota Vikings. Not for their crushing 40-3 defeat to the Cowboys, but for their social media team's hilarious bungle this week involving the Jumbotron and male adult film star. As the Vikings recognized our nation's service members this week in celebration of Veterans Day, they encouraged fans to tweet at them with pictures of family and friends who served in the military. Greg's losing it. I'm trying to stay good. In a turn that absolutely everybody could have predicted, a Twitter user shared this tweet of male adult film star Johnny Sins in an army uniform. I really am trying here.
That's fantastic. Okay. He's a versatile man. He's a doctor. He's a soldier. Whatever.
Let me compose myself. No, I'm pretty good at this. A Twitter user shared this tweet of male adult film star Johnny Sins in an army uniform that hasn't been in a widespread use. This is so bad. Since the invasion of Iraq. Somehow this made past any verification or screening of tweets that the 2022 troll culture makes necessary, and it appeared on the Jumbotron for the world to see because they incorrectly interpreted the term "thank you for your service." We salute the Minnesota Vikings and award them Buffalo Late Night's coveted Damn Award. I'm glad I got through that mess.
It was fantastic. It was
Thank you.
So
there we are.
Enriched my night. I am having a better night now knowing that happened.
Yep. Somebody is definitely getting fired for that one. It was pretty good, to say the least. That is enough of that stuff. This Thursday, the Bills head back to Detroit to face the Lions and the opening time slot for Thanksgiving Football Day in America. For anybody who is unaware, that is the 12:30 time slot. Make sure you're watching. Greg and Bruce, what do the Bills need to do to secure the victory and move to 8-3 against the Detroit Lions?
I think the first thing that I want the Buffalo Bills to do is to recognize that Amon-Ra St. Brown is read one on every play, like just every play. And you wouldn't think, oh, yeah, Bruce, that's insane. What are you talking about? That's impossible. Go listen to Sean McVay's comments on Cooper Kupp when asked about getting Allen Robinson more involved in the offense earlier in the year. And what he said was, Cooper Kupp is read number one on every play, and you wouldn't want to have that any other way. He just flat out said, there are offenses out there that just say, every single play, if you're available, we're going to give you the ball, right? The target numbers for Amon-Ra St. Brown are staggering. I mean, this guy, when fully healthy, does not get under 8 targets a game. It just never happens. It's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 targets every single game. And Jared Goff, if he's there, trusts him to make a play. You need to make Jared Goff hold the ball. That's what I want. This is one of those games where the coverage needs to help the pass rush rather than the pass rush helping the coverage. You need to cause Jared Goff to double clutch. You need to cause him to process. You want to make him make all the way across the field, get to the second half of that read, and then your pass rush can get home against the Detroit Lions, who have a good offensive line. This is a team where if you let them get in rhythm, it's going to be dink, da dink, da dink, da dink, da dink, Jamal Williams at the end. That's the way every drive is going to go. It's going to go Amon-Ra St. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown on the 3-yard line, heavy dose of Jamal Williams until you get in the end zone. That's what this is going to happen. And you need to avoid that by making sure that Jared Goff has to hold the ball, because Jameson Williams isn't back yet. DJ Chark just got activated. We still don't know what we're going to see in him quite yet, but it's a scenario where you want him to hold the ball. Some players are capable of making explosive plays when they hold the ball, right? You don't get any luxury when the play breaks down initially and Patrick Mahomes break the pocket. You don't get excited about that. You're like, oh yeah, we got him right where we want him now. Patrick Mahomes on the run, guy sucks. That's not how this works. But it is how it works when the quarterback's Jared Goff. Jared Goff has always been a solid distributor of the football. Distributor is the word I want to use. He's not a playmaker. That's the difference. He's a distributor. So make him hold the ball. Make him get to the second phase. Make him jumpstart a scramble drill. Make him do those things with the coverage to allow the pass rush to get there.
And I think a key way to do that is, can we put together another good week of run defense? This Detroit Lions team has, I would say, 5 or 6, 7 good players on offense. They are the linemen, Jamal Williams. When DeAndre Swift is healthy, I would include him, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And that's about it. It drops off significantly. And Bruce touched on it, when a DJ Chark is healthy, when a Jamal, or when you have, the full complement of their healthy wide receivers and getting Jameson Williams back healthy. When they formerly had TJ Hawkinson, there were other options, but now it's very much one option in the passing game, a good offensive line, and a solid running back. When you've seen their shootout wins, it's usually a team that can't stop the run so that they can get things going. And Jared Goff, when protected and with a run game that is threatening the defense where he can run play action, has some ability to function. And I think Bruce's description to distribute the ball is within his skill set to be able to do that. So I have confidence that the Bills defensive line has been disruptive. I don't think he has the pocket movement skills. This is really weird to say. I don't think he has the pocket movement skills of Jacoby Brissett, and the ability to evade the rush like Brissett did, just mind-blowingly in those 2 garbage time drills where I think we were about an inch away from a sack every single snap. Jared Goff doesn't have that in him. But if you let him get rolling with a successful running game, let him use play action and then get the ball out on schedule, often to Amon-Ra St. Brown, he can function in offense. So we obviously saw 26 carries for 80 yards against the Cleveland Browns is inarguably a good game. Their offensive line, even with missing a player or two, still had All-Pro Joe Bitonio, Wyatt Teller, top 10 pick Jedrick Wills, All-Pro Jack Conklin, high-level guys that are able to do many good things, and still Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Holding them to 26 carries for 80 yards is a great game. The box score didn't look great for the Minnesota game, and the ending, I think, smudged it. But really, it was one bad angle on an 81-yard touchdown run, and otherwise a really well-defended game where I think it was something crazy, like I don't know, like 17 carries for 39 yards, I think, something along those lines. So I need to see a third straight game of, again, that 81-yard run did count, but I'm not going to let that negate the other good plays. And then obviously a very good game against the Browns' more vaunted run offense. If we can put together a third one there, this Detroit team does not function well in a one-dimensional setup when you know what's coming, when you can pin your ears back. And I do think, although it's a talented offensive line, it's a better run blocking offensive line than it is a pass blocking offensive line. So if you get them into a one-dimensional phase where they're not able to run the ball, you get into obvious passing downs, those second and third downs, the 7 and 8 or more, I think that you will get into a situation where you can control it. You can do exactly what Bruce was touching on. And you can make them have to play from an uncomfortable position. And I think that's what I want to see, is another week of good run defense that leads into pinning your ears back and being able to go after Jared Goff, who isn't going to be able to get away, as we saw last week.
Right. And I think the big thing going into this game, which obviously was the same with this past game, is having Jordan Poyer lends itself to a lot of different variations of defense, right? I mean, you know that Leslie Frazier can get more creative when he has Jordan Poyer on the field than, let's say, a Cam Lewis, let's say a Jaquan Johnson. So that's definitely going to help them in terms of their run defense, because they can have DeMar Hamlin press up against the line. They can have Jordan Poyer do the same thing. There's a lot of different coverage maps that they can kind of disguise and throw out there. The one thing I am intrigued about is whether or not Ed Oliver can continue being consistent in terms of getting pressure, because you've seen it hasn't been as consistent as it was last year. It's been flashes, and then he kind of drops off. And then last game, you get a really nice start to the game, and then it kind of settled in a little bit towards the end. I think that's going to be something to keep an eye on, especially in a game like this, where I think getting that inside pressure, that interior pressure, and allowing, Von Miller and Boogie Basham or Shaq Lawson. I feel like Shaq Lawson will probably have another big role in this game, at least setting the edge. Having those two interior defensive linemen at least cause Jared Goff to get off of his comfort, to get him to have step back into the pocket or step up in the pocket is going to be incredibly important in these moments.
Yeah, agreed.
Moving forward, obviously, Jay Spence today tweeted out that this offseason, between Ed Oliver, Tremaine Edmonds, and Jordan Poyer, that which of the three would you be willing to walk away with or walk away from while keeping the other two? I want to go a step further in that, in saying that there's the potential that we might be able to only keep one of the three moving into this offseason. With that being the case, gentlemen, of those three, which one would you choose to keep going forward?
So I don't want to, obviously I'm not looking to rain on any parades per se, but just to clarify, Ed Oliver is under contract in 2023. It is a 5th-year option. It is
right
at a large salary amount, but he actually can't walk away. So he's not allowed to. So he has a guaranteed $10.7 million to be there. Now there's incentive. And I think the Tremaine Edmonds situation for this year is a good correlation to be able to explain why you would want to extend early, because you can then significantly reduce that cap hit, where next year all 10.7 million only counts in that year. It's all guaranteed salary. So there's incentive to want to extend that early. I have been just with the exercise. I do think the positional value of a disruptive 3-tech is more valuable than a linebacker, from the ability to replace and the impact they have. And I think I would still rate Oliver there in this exercise, even though we can retain him at least for next year. I've flip-flopped with the other two. I've gone back and forth, even though, age is obviously a huge factor in this equation. I was still leaning towards Jordan Poyer for a healthy period of time. Part of that was I did not believe that we had a starting caliber safety on the roster outside of Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, and that if we lost him, we would have to go outside the organization to bring a person in. I was half right. Jaquan Johnson showed he is not a starting caliber safety. Cam Lewis, I think, is still, I guess that's just kind of an experiment. He was never intended. He's a UDFA fringe roster player. Even if he makes the conversion to safety, I don't have expectations of that happening. But I'm now ready to admit I was wrong on DeMar Hamlin. DeMar Hamlin is a starting caliber safety in the NFL. Each week I see more and more. Eric Turner just did a fantastic video breaking down the capabilities of what he's shown thus far. Even when I initially hedged about, all right, maybe I'm seeing a little bit more in his ability to, really get his, stick his face in the fan, all the fun football cliches, in his ability to come up in run sets, his ability to go sideline to sideline, his ability to really throw himself in there. He was making coverage plays this week. He was dropping deep and then putting his foot in the ground, breaking to the sideline and breaking up passes. I'm still mad about the pass interference he got called on with
Absolute
Donovan
bullshit.
Peoples-Jones.
It was a terrible call.
Where he did, I give the ref, he did have his arm around the waist. He didn't interfere with him. He didn't grab and turn the body. He didn't impact the receiver in any way.
Significantly impede. No.
He did not significantly impede Donovan Peoples-Jones and perfectly high pointed the ball in man coverage against a well-regarded jump ball contested catch receiver. I am now very comfortable that, hey, maybe we do have another starting caliber safety. That, realization and epiphany on my behalf, or acknowledgement probably, as some people were already there, now shifts it to where I would still have Ed Oliver. I would then go Tremaine Edmonds, and then I would go Jordan Poyer, which pains me because I love Jordan Poyer with a significant portion of my heart. But I would rank it Oliver, Edmonds, Poyer.
I'd rank it the same. And the one of the issues with having Greg go first is that inevitably you have to come up with on the fly other things to say, because he'll just cover all the bases that I was going to cover. I think positional value is really important. I think age is really important. Of the three, I think that Jordan Poyer has played at the highest level over the last 2 years. But age matters, positional value matters, potential replacement matters. All the things that Greg already talked about. So do I feel okay with DeMar Hamlin and Micah Hyde next year? Yeah. Do I feel okay with Tyrell Dodson or Terrell Bernard or no, I don't. Right. Do I feel okay about Jordan Phillips coming back to replace Ed Oliver? No, I don't. I like Jordan Phillips in a rotational role as a 3-tech. I don't want him as my starting down in and down out 3-tech, right? Yeah. I want Jordan Phillips in the role that he's in now. And so we finally have Daquan Jones next to Ed Oliver. We finally have the player that you thought Star Lotulelei was going to be next to Ed Oliver, and now he gets hurt early in the season, and he fights through that. I mean, Ed Oliver was on an unbelievable trajectory at the end of 2021, and then nothing gets in the way of a breakout season like a nagging injury. And you saw it with Dawson Knox. You saw it with Ed Oliver. And so you're just kind of hoping that the end of 2022, you will get back to what you saw at the end of 2021. But it's not as simple as who's had the highest level of play in the last 2 years. It's not that easy. So potential roster replacements matters and age matters. And so I have them ranked the exact same way. I have them ranked Oliver, Edmonds, Poyer.
Yeah, I think the only thing, and I will say I did eat crow because I said it, I think after, I don't know, it was the Ravens game or the Vikings game. I can't remember. No, it wasn't the Vikings. He didn't play in the Vikings. That I just thought the lack of Edmonds' ability to acknowledge the run in certain aspects was a big question mark for me. I just thought when you see Milano is missing and people are clamoring as to getting him back, that's huge, right? He should be the one stepping up in those moments. And I think that Edmonds really, he stepped it up big. I think his ability to be impactful from sideline to sideline, and you can see when he's not there, he is mightily missed. Just his wingspan alone, I think, is something that can't be replicated. But I agree. I think Ed Oliver is, when it comes down to it, a quality 3-tech, because I think the thing about it is, and it's a narrative that I think we need to get away from, is people look at Ed Oliver because he's undersized and have this expectation of Aaron Donald, and for some reason there's this linear map right to Ed Oliver, and it's not the case, right? They're not the same guy. They play the same position, they're built the same, but Aaron Donald is an anomaly, and even of itself, if you look at the statistical breakdown of Aaron Donald, he's unbelievable, but he also isn't good in certain moments as well. Like, he has his deficiencies as well, just like Ed Oliver. But yeah, I would definitely say that. I mean, you can't run with, as much as Jordan Poyer, Craig, like you're saying, he is unbelievable. He's 31, I believe. going to be 32. It's hard to roll with a guy at that age, even as good as he is. And DeMar Hamlin, I think, is making a case to make it easier to walk away at a certain point. So,
Geno Atkins was always a better comp, and it absolutely
Agreed.
drove me absolutely up the wall when Ed Oliver got comped to Aaron Donald. It's literally like comping quarterbacks to Patrick Mahomes at this point. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're just setting yourself, your fan base, and anyone who consumes your content up for tremendous amounts of failure. What are the odds that any defensive tackle is going to be Aaron Donald? There's an argument Aaron Donald is the greatest defensive player ever. Like, there's arguments for that.
Right.
Don't ever comp anyone to Aaron Donald. Just don't. Don't ever do it.
Hey, this guy's the next Lawrence Taylor. This guy's the next Reggie White. Like, probably not. Probably not. Whoever it is, whoever you think that person is, he's probably not.
You want to see what I look like? It'll be the last thing you see. That's what it'll be when you pull that crap off on me. I get so sick and tired of it because inevitably, I cannot tell you how many times last year and the year before when Ed Oliver wouldn't have a great game or something like that, or something would happen, he'd get blown out of a game. Oh, he's too small. Play the blah, 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 blah. You said those things because you thought he was Aaron Donald. If you thought he was Geno Atkins, if you thought that was the ceiling for him, and mind you, Geno Atkins is a really good player. He was a really, really good player. Please do not think that that's me underselling Ed Oliver. Geno Atkins was a really good player, and anyone would be thrilled to have Geno Atkins on your team. But you didn't look at Aaron Donald as the ceiling. You looked at Geno Atkins as the ceiling. All of a sudden, from a comp standpoint, the struggles start to make sense. All of a sudden, the development starts to make sense. The arc starts to make sense. All these things make sense because they were in the context of the story, of the narrative that you built for yourself. We build terrible narratives for ourselves, and then we get mad when they don't happen. That's not our fault. That's your fault. You created the narrative that you're now getting mad that your player's not up to. You didn't live up to the thing that you just pulled out of your rear end. Of course, he's not going to live up to that. Stop trying to make him.
Just for a reference for people who may not be familiar, Geno Atkins had 6 seasons of 9+ sacks. Geno Atkins had 8 Pro Bowl seasons, 2 All-Pro seasons. Geno Atkins is a fantastic player. Like, that is still a level and a ceiling we haven't seen from Ed Oliver, and if we do see it, it would be a huge success.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think the problem is you have fans that like to say, and they use Josh Allen for this as well. I remember last year people were saying, well, Mac Jones started off here, so he absolutely can be just like Josh Allen. They do it with players left and right. The problem is,
I'll flip it to the linebacker position. There has always been an unfair comparison based off initial expectation versus actual level of play between Tremaine Edmunds and Matt Milano. Tremaine Edmunds and Matt Milano are very similar players. They perform very similarly. They have similar levels of success and similar levels of failure. But Matt Milano was a great, fun, scrappy story of a 5th rounder fighting his way into a starting role. Tremaine Edmunds was, Joe Marino's 2nd overall rated player in his draft board and was the next Brian Urlacher and was coming in as this generational, bundle of traits who was going to be a Hall of Famer. And then all of a sudden, the 1st round pick and the 5th round pick are both performing about the same, but we're excited about the level of play that we're getting out of the 5th round pick, and we're disappointed in the level of play of the 1st round pick, which is fine that season. It's even fine the next season. At some point, Matt Milano's a $40 million linebacker now. Like, he's supposed to be good. Like, I'm paying him $40 million in his contract. I want flash plays. I expect those things. And even though no Bills fan ever acknowledges it, I'm okay that he gets washed out sometimes in the run game. I'm okay that he struggles to get off of blocks. I'm okay that he's not great disengaging at the point of attack because I get the offset of the other things. And I get the offset of flash plays and consistently good play. And that this year, we're actually seeing elite play from Matt Milano. So this year, he is even going even further. Tremaine Edmunds is also really good and a really good player, but people expected elite dominance and special and Luke Kuechly and Brian Urlacher. And because we haven't seen that, all of a sudden really good. And yeah, but you tell me that he takes away plays in the middle of the field, but I can't see it on the broadcast film. So I don't believe you. And I want more flash plays like what Milano does. And then all of a sudden, when he doesn't do those things, or he, it looks like he picks the wrong gap because somebody else guesses or the defensive lineman doesn't go there. Oh, see, Milano didn't, or Edmonds didn't clean that one up. And in the exact same play, in the exact same frame of film on the screen, Matt Milano's over here getting blocked by a tight end. And nobody says a thing because Matt Milano's nice and quiet.
Predisposition.
And, it just, the level of expectation going in is so out of whack for guys like Oliver, Edmonds, people like that. It's been interesting when we set that bar and then just can never reset it later in their careers.
Well, Milano, his job is to hit the C gap, and then Tremaine is the guessing game. He has to figure out where else to go. So I think that's the problem, is fans think it's easy for Tremaine, whereas Tremaine actually has the harder of the two jobs, because he has to diagnose the play a lot faster than what Matt Milano has to do. And unironically enough, as we're dealing with the same thing with Christian Benford and Kyer Elam right now, where you got a 6th round pick and a 1st round pick. The only difference is we have the comfortability of having other corners to buffer that issue. Yep. So we'll see what happens there too.
If you want to play nickel with 2 high safeties all the time, like you're going to put pressure on your linebackers, just the way it is. Like your linebackers are playing on hard mode, right? This isn't the New York Giants and Wink Martindale, right? This is your linebackers playing on hard mode. And I wish however many times it was necessary to say that, it would land. And you are playing on hard mode. And then when you say things like, we really need to make sure that we get a really good 2-gapping 1-tech in here so we can unlock further the abilities of Tremaine Edmonds, then the initial response is, well, why does he need someone in front of him to unlock? Because math. That's why. Because math. Yeah. This is why. Math. Just count the
even
gaps.
Barry Sanders couldn't run without an offensive line.
Yes. It's just, so if linebackers, right, need a defensive line and running backs need an offensive line, if you're going to make tons of excuses for Devin Singletary and James Cook because of offensive line, those same things apply in the inverse on the defensive line. And math, like just turn on the film and then just do the counting thing where you move from left to right and go 1, 2, 3, 4, right. Okay. How many players in the box? Where's you want to play your DeMar Hamlins of the world deep from way deep, and you want to have them run the alley and fill versus the run, which is incredibly difficult to do. So we acknowledge that that's difficult, but we don't acknowledge that not having the safety in the box to begin with makes it harder for the guys who are in there. Yeah. Both of these things have to be true. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Like, it's just the math does not work. And so Daquan Jones has been one of my absolute favorite offseason acquisitions for the Buffalo Bills in quite some time. And the reason that is because you get to see the linebackers going from hardcore nightmare mode to just hard, right? That's the difference. It's the difference between playing a video game where you have permadeath versus playing the game where it's just hard, but you get to try again. That's the level of difficulty change due to the presence of Daquan Jones.
And I'll even add that I think it was healthy for people to see. We had this debate in our Cover One Slack chat, and that Eric was making the point that it's not really fair to ask Terrell Dodson to just straight up do what they asked Tremaine Edmonds to do. And I said, you're probably right. But, we also argue the other way that, hey, the scheme is the scheme. We're not going to shift. We're not going to change. The scheme is the scheme. And that next man up comment kind of cuts both ways. Like it does equal opportunity. It also equals some expectation. And I think it was healthy for people to see. And I used a percentage analogy and say that I think Tremaine Edmonds has the hardest job of the 11 guys of the Buffalo Bills. And that doesn't mean that the other guys aren't better at their job. They are, but they're not asked to do as much. So it's a little bit easier to be better at their job. So seeing someone where I think Tremaine Edmonds does 95% of that job really well, but the 5% that he doesn't do, we really hammer in on. See, Bruce dropping hints. FBI's on you. So the 5% that Tremaine doesn't do, we really hammer in on. Well, now you see them ask Terrell Dotson to do it, and he can only do like 50% of the job. So now when you see, oh, I guess that other 45% was pretty helpful, and that maybe it's okay that he couldn't do the other 5%, but at least we could have now appreciate that doing that other 45% was a good thing. So maybe it was at least worthwhile to get to that point.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, let's get into the meat and potatoes. This late in the show, it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. The Bills over the past 3.5 weeks have mightily struggled, obviously, with their red zone efficiency. And they had 10 drives against the Browns, 2 ended punts. Josh had a touchdown pass to Stephon Diggs at the end of the second quarter. Devin Singletary had a rushing touchdown at the end of the third quarter. And Tyler Bass had a career day, a team career day, with 6 field goals on the day against the Browns. So that leads me to the main topic, obviously, tonight with the red zone woes. I actually went back and I took a look over the past 10 games to see how their red zone efficiency looked. And it was actually weirder than I thought. It was very weird. Whereas the last 4 games, the Bills were 8-17 in their red zone trips. Previous to that, the first 6 games, they were 10-22. So it's not as though their red zone has gotten markedly better. In fact, it probably has been around the same, and it wasn't really that great. I think the problem is when you've got Josh Allen. Josh Allen has a tendency of being a giant, one of those ridiculous erasers you had in school, and he can just erase all the mistakes and errors that you have. So for you guys, what do you see at this point that is causing these red zone issues to such a degree that you're seeing in multiple games that they're stalling out, that they're having issues with either continuity or just continuation of what they're doing well in previous games?
I think they should score more touchdowns.
That's it. Let's just go. All right, we're done. Has everybody had a good time? Good. Cool. Thank you for joining us. Score more touchdowns.
We'll see you next week.
I think that one of the things that you mentioned about Josh Allen being an eraser, Josh Allen's not having as many design runs this year, and I think that matters. I think it matters in the red zone. I think it matters. It matters from the given how explosive Josh Allen can be in the run games and how effective QB power and the quarterback pass run options that you see, where if the screen's there, he'll take it. If it's not there, he'll run up the middle. Those things have been largely absent this year. Obviously, the elbow injury changes whether or not you want to run those things, because it changes whether or not you. So if you thought the idea was that was going to be something that they had as a contingency plan, now you probably don't want to use that as a contingency plan. The other thing is the Bills have not been effective running the ball in the interior at all. The Bills have been much more effective running the ball on the edges, and that's not necessarily always the best way in the red zone, because what you're doing there is you're stretching out the amount of time that you have a condensed space for defenders to get to you anyway. So long developing plays in the red zone are a bad idea because everything's compressed. The coming from distance we just talked about with DeMar Hamlin, that distance isn't nearly as far in the red zone. So not being able to run the ball in the interior, not running Josh Allen as much, and reasonably not running Josh Allen as much, that's not a criticism of Ken Dorsey. I think some of the spacing on some of these concepts has been weird. The pass right before the interception that Josh Allen threw against the Vikings, there was a follow concept with Gabriel Davis and Isaiah McKenzie. And Isaiah McKenzie was like right on his tail. Like it was this, there's no spacing in the world that's designed that way. Okay. Just there's no way in the world that was the way that play was drawn up. And so that spacing's not right. You have things like that. Also, I'd love to see some more play action. I'd love to see some more play action in the red zone. When you have to pry windows open, that's important. One of the things I've been critical about Ken Dorsey about the last couple of weeks is because you have a quarterback who's struggling. Give me some hard play action, man. From under center, give me some hard play action. Let the footwork get underneath him. Pry those windows open, right? And you haven't seen any of that stuff in the red zone. And so I think that there's a few concepts that Brian Daboll and Josh Allen really liked in the red zone. And Ken Dorsey and Josh Allen are still finding their way, I think, when it comes to the concepts that they're going to like in the red zone. I think that having running backs who can catch the ball, I think, is valuable in the red zone. Naheem Hines and James Cook, players like that who can do things like that. I think you saw it with the Bengals and Samaje Perine this past week against the Steelers. That, Joe Burrow threw 4 touchdown passes, but 3 of them were checkdowns where Samaje Perine made a guy miss. And that's so valuable in the red zone. So I think that if you continue to get Naheem Hines involved, I think if you continue to get James Cook involved in the pass game, I think that'll help, because those are things that can operate as faster developing exterior plays. Because we just mentioned that running the ball to the exterior of the defense when in the red zone is sometimes a bad thing because it's slowly developing, but passing, it's not necessarily a bad thing. So I think all those things combined are red zone concerns for me, things I'm keeping an eye on in the red zone. And a lot of them is simply a matter of Ken Dorsey having to figure this out. It's funny. We really want to be critical of Leslie Frazier, the guy who has coordinated many years of top 5 defenses in Buffalo, but then we're really hesitant to criticize the first-time play caller, Ken Dorsey, who has never called plays ever before this year. Like, which one of these things, from a probability standpoint, which one of these coordinators do you think is going to go through growing pains this year? Is it the guy who's never done it before ever? Or is it the guy who has successfully coordinated multiple top 5 defenses in the National Football League? So all these things together, I think, are reasonable. And so I think that Dorsey's got work to do. I think that the offensive scheme's got work to do. I think Allen needs to make some better decisions. I think that all this stuff come together can help the Bills' red zone offense get better moving forward.
So, as Bruce said earlier, going second sucks.
How do you like it now? I literally, my voice was giving out, and I was still like, I'm going to keep going. I'm just going to keep going till every single point has been laid out. Let's see how Greg likes it.
So the only points I'll add on to what Bruce has said is I also don't think we're going to find out that much about it, because I don't think they're going to run Josh until the playoffs. And I do think we'll see it in the playoffs. I think that they will comfortably unleash that, both now from a timeline standpoint of, very intentionally not running him while he's letting his elbow heal, and that makes more sense anyways from a risk factor standpoint, and not from hey, we're going to hold our cards back so much that we're willing to risk regular season losses. I don't think it's that black and white, but when you add in the risk factor of the injury and him healing what is obviously an impactful elbow injury, I don't think we're going to see that. So I think that's going to remain the way it is. I'm hopeful that we see a little more of what we did this week and yesterday with the run game, that allows a little bit more to happen, because I think it can be dangerous if you then have both of those things going into the playoffs, where we're able to establish a little more effective run game usage, and then you reintroduce Josh Allen as a runner, which again, I do expect to happen in the playoffs. And then the only other piece is, I think yesterday we saw a little bit of what Bruce alluded to in, hey, what is the pivot? What is the off-speed pitch? What is the second read for Ken Dorsey? And we saw a pretty big shift yesterday in personnel usage. I think we're also seeing some shifts in not only personnel groupings from a usage standpoint, but also player snap percentages. And that, I hate to, pile on a guy who I think the fan base is started to be a little bit rough towards. But if Naheem Hines is the read option on that 2-point conversion, he scores instead of Isaiah McKenzie trying to race to the corner and getting bullied by John Johnson III. And I think that now starting to push a little bit that direction, and don't get me wrong, I desperately would love to see a third veteran wide receiver added to this group of maybe one named Odell Beckham Jr. theoretically. But if we don't have that, we're going to have to figure things out on our own. And that, it got to a point where today in the Cover One staff chat, I literally had to ask and be like, are we 100% all the way sure that Cole Beasley's done? Are we are we certain that that's just irreconcilable and we can't fix it? I miss having a guy who gets open quickly and flashes visually to Josh Allen to be like, hey, look, I'm wide open. Throw me the ball. And that losing Beasley, who, I think we saw in Tampa Bay did lose a step and is not that same guy anymore. Because if he was, he'd still be playing for Tom Brady. Losing Emmanuel Sanders, who is ready to retire. And then what didn't seem to be as impactful in the moment because everybody was too busy being excited about Isaiah McKenzie, the fractured ankle and losing Jamison Crowder, just not to have another veteran option who knew how to find those soft spots in the zone and knew how to do those things. I can't see the progression of Khalil Shakir soon enough, or, I'm getting more and more comfortable with Brandon Beane making an uncomfortable offer to Odell Beckham Jr. because I want that other guy really badly. So I think that's one of the other pieces that we'll need to see Dorsey figure out a way to scheme our way to success, or finding another person who can win at the line of scrimmage, win in coverage, and visually flash open in those situations, especially on those critical third downs.
It's ironic, is actually one of my topics, which I ended up erasing, but whatever, was if in fact Odell Beckham doesn't come to Buffalo, could we pry in Emmanuel Sanders out of retirement or go on to the free agent market and look what they've got there, which I'll be honest, it's not great.
Yeah.
Not a lot there to be picking from.
We did just see Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph come out, and play day one. A defensive tackle is different. But if Emmanuel Sanders tells me that he's ready to play, I'm ready. I'm ready and willing.
Right. And I just think I don't know if it's like you said with Shakir. I don't know if he's not comfortable, or Josh isn't comfortable with him, if he's not getting used necessarily in the slot and they want him more in Gabe Davis's role. I'm not sure what's going on there. In fact, and I agree. I think Jamison Crowder, I think we are seeing that he was going to be much bigger of a role. I think as much as Isaiah McKenzie may flashed in training camp, and I think we all thought that he had won the job kind of unanimously, I think it was just too big for him in a vacuum. And I think that Jamison Crowder was going to be that guy that could really fill in a pinch. And you're seeing this season, without having any slot receiver, Josh is struggling mightily, because that is his really, like, if all else holy shit fails, he can turn and look and he has somebody sitting right there at the sticks, right? Or even if not that, he has somebody. Oh, please.
Oh no.
So he has somebody who he can trust there on third down to be able to, like Greg said, flash in front of the quarterback, present himself open, do all the things he has to do. I think that one of the things that we talked about a lot early in Josh Allen's tenure was how important it was to see ball, throw ball, right? See open, throw open, because the anticipatory traits were not quite there. So having somebody who can present himself and open and saying, okay, Josh, you don't have to expect me to be open. You can see me open, and then because you have a cannon, you can see ball, throw ball. You can see open, throw open. And so you don't need that. And this is the first time where he has had Stephon Diggs in that role, and that's it. There's no Cole Beasley in that role. I think a lot of us thought Jamison Crowder could be a little bit of that role. There's some high hopes for Khalil Shakir. Khalil Shakir's still a 5th-round rookie, guys.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
I love Khalil Shakir. I was the captain of the Khalil Shakir team, but I thought he was going to be a 3rd-round rookie, and I still would have been like, he's still a 3rd-round rookie, guys.
Yeah.
But now he's a 5th-round rookie.
Yeah, it doesn't change my excitement. Yeah, it doesn't change my excitement of him in 2023, 2024, but that excitement and the value he was in the 5th round doesn't mean he's more ready right now, even if we need it.
Which, thank you for covering for me. This is 2 days in a row of a brand new mouse, and it's got this ridiculously stupid button on the side that if you click it, it goes back a page and jumps me out of this. So there we are.
You need to buy a new mouse for sure.
I
definitely need
a brand new mouse though. But yes, that is.
We literally heard, "Oh, please don't," and it's gone.
Yeah, I knew it was coming, and that's what she said. So, guys, fantastic job tonight. I truly appreciate all the breakdown, and I know everybody in the chat as well. Any final notes going into this which actually I brought something up. WIVB4 out of Buffalo tweeted out the Wednesday to Sunday snow totals, and Hamburg hit 81.4 inches of total snowfall, which is I can't even I can't fathom the idea, or even it doesn't make sense to me whatsoever. But aside from all that, any last thoughts going into this week's Thursday night Thanksgiving matchup?
I'll let
I
you go
hope
first, Greg.
I hope we win. Winning
Yeah.
is fun. No, we touched on a lot of pieces earlier where I think those focus areas, controlling the run on both sides of the line, which is weird. I am as pass first, pass second, pass third as anybody gets. I'm a pass happy, analyst in the way I approach things. The situations in the circumstances we've seen with Josh's elbow, with the ability to have play action for Jared Goff in Detroit, this is a game where the run game is going to matter a lot. We need to be able to run the ball against them. We need to be able to stop them from running the ball. This is a football guy's dream. It makes sense. It's on Thanksgiving. We're celebrating John Madden. So that's what I'm going to be focused on is, can we have an old school win where we stop the run and we run the ball? And get back to some hog mollies and whatnot.
Bruce?
I think the interesting thing about this game is that when this schedule came out, there were more than a few people who said, the Lions could be scrappy this year. And at the time when the schedule came out, one of my favorite things about schedule releases is that you're never going to lose to any teams at all who aren't elite when the schedule comes out. Just the way it is. Never happened. No one ever remembers the last year. No one remembers losing to the Jags. When the schedule release comes out this year, no one will remember losing to the Jets. This will never happen. No one will remember losing the Vikings. It's just never going to happen. And so it's interesting now to see where these two teams are at the time they're actually playing. At this point, when the Buffalo Bills beat the Browns, the overwhelming majority of sentiment was, it's just nice to win one. It's just nice to win one. We're not in the style points spot right now. Just win one, right? Just keep stacking wins together. And I think that's the way I feel about the Lions. I don't really particularly care about style points when you've been in a funk like this, because the way you get out of the funk is by stacking wins together. And so for me, I know that how and why are more predictive than what. I know those things intrinsically, but at this point, when you are staring down the barrel of a really, really competitive AFC East division, and you are not first in your division, I'll take any W I can get at this point. And however it is that's necessary after the week that the Buffalo Bills have had, after the way that they have had to overcome some logistical adversity, just get me a W.
Right. And I think it can't be stated enough, like you said, with the logistical battle, just what people in Buffalo had to deal with. Because I think the big caveat to this week was why the Bills didn't play in Buffalo, which, alone with the stupidity of people making comments that, that's why we should have a dome, and Reed Ferguson coming, clapping back saying, well, we should just put a dome on, the Peace Bridge, or put a dome over the cities. Right. I mean, there's just so many things that went there. So I think it's great if we can get another win this week for the people of Buffalo for what they've dealt with. Just the insurmountable amount of snow that, like I said, 81 inches, I can't fathom. But I think this game, like Bruce, you stated, I think continuing the trend of getting wins right now. Last night I hosted the Buffalo Rumblings post-game call-in show, and Jerry Ostrowski came on, and one of the things that he mentioned was it's tough to win in the NFL. Point blank, period. It doesn't matter what team you're facing. It's tough to win. And on top of that, it's even tougher to win when your back's against the wall, like the Bills has had, theirs has been this entire season, quite frankly. They've had a litany of injuries. This past week has been an absolute mind-boggling mess with just illness and snowstorms and logistical issues and trying to figure out where to practice and everything in between. So if they can go into a 4-day week this week and then go back to Detroit and beat, like you said, a very scrappy Detroit team, who cares? Who cares? Because just like I've said, if they sign Odell Beckham, no one's going to care 20 years from now if we win the Super Bowl as to signing Odell Beckham or not signing Odell Beckham. Just the same at the end of the season, if we win the Super Bowl, they're not going to care what games you win and how you win them. So just get in there and finish them off and do what you need to do. That being said, gentlemen, want to thank you guys for stopping in here. I know, Bruce, you're absolutely torched. Greg's been dealing with a lot of sickness in his family right now. Just this RSV stuff's been going around like wildfire. Let people know where they can find your fantastic content, because you two are some of my favorites.
Oh, I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun tonight. You can find me over at Cover One on the YouTube channel, same way you're watching this wonderful show now. And find me on Twitter at Greg Tompsett. Always having a good time with Bills fans.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Bruce Exclusive. My show, The Bruce Exclusive, drops every Thursday on the Buffalo Rumblings Podcast Network. And then Nate Geary from WGR and I do a fun, lighthearted show on Friday evenings at 9 o'clock called Food for Thought, where we attempt to continually make food and football metaphors. And so far, it's been going for a year and a half, and we have now run out of food metaphors. So catch me on those things if you deem it so.
Beautiful. Well, for everybody watching, truly appreciate you guys hopping in tonight. Great chat as usual. Really appreciate you coming and checking out this show on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network. This is Buffalo Late Night. I am Thomas DeLoss. Last thing I want to say to everybody is I hope everybody has a very, very healthy, very safe, and wonderful happy Thanksgiving. It's a time of year that you spend worrying about your family, right? Football aside, it's great. It's going to be football. Spend time with your family. Spend time with the ones that you love. Spend time with the ones that mean the most to you, because every day is just a new day, but every day could be the last day, right? So make it important, make it impactful. Spend time with those people and tell them you love them. I know people say it all the time. I love Tim the Tap Man. He's one of my favorite gamers. Tell somebody you love them, let them know, and tell them often. And just enjoy Thursday, enjoy football. Again, as always, I am Thomas DeLoss. You can find me at the Thomas DeLoss. I truly appreciate you stopping by. We'll start it the way we finish it. Go Bills.
The Bills make me wanna.